Back to Hardball. The traffic is a nightmare. Well, those are the words of one New Jersey paramedics dispatcher on September 9th of last year, day one of the George Washington Bridge lane closure scandal that we now know as Bridgegate. New police and emergency responder radio transmissions were released today, by the municipal clerk of the city of Fort Lee. And they paint such a crippling picture of chaos that they make Bridget Kelly's now famous description of traffic problems sound like an understatement. The burden, of course, fell on the shoulders of Fort Lee's municipal employees who struggled to navigate ambulances and emergency vehicles through the gridlock. It's firsthand evidence of how the politically motivated lane closures ordered by Governor Christie's deputy chief of staff affected real people in need. Let's listen.
At 211 Fort Lee, traffic is a nightmare. The GW Bridge is totally gridlocked. If you can come up maybe Fort Lee Road or something to that effect.
10-4. We're getting calls from irate motorists.
You're aware the town is a total gridlock, correct?
There's a lot of these tapes, and here now to talk about them in the ongoing investigations, NBC's chief investigative correspondent Michael Isikoff and Amanda Terkel, who's senior political reporter with the Huffington Post. Thank you, Joe. Michael, you've been on this case, and how's this going to be used? What's the significance of actually hearing the voices of... We're going to play some more of this in a few minutes.
Well, look, Chris, if there's ever a criminal case that comes out of all this, they'll be playing these tapes in the opening statement.
For the jury.
Yeah, for the jury. It's how you make it real, show, you hear people talking about gridlock. But now, to be fair and in perspective, what the defense will do at that very point is then get out the tapes, 100 other tapes from 911 tapes over the period of the last few years, and you'll see that this is not all that unusual.
Sure, but let's go to this call that would grab me, or a juror, I think. Sure. Here's a call from a frustrated woman who had already called 911 once and was still waiting for the ambulance to arrive. Let's listen to this call.
Where's your
Yes, honey, I told you. It's where are they?
I know. Is this for 1345 Selden Place? All right, they're on their way. You only called a couple of minutes ago. They're on their way, okay?
Yeah, but it's emergency, and they are not still here.
I know.
Okay.
They're on their way.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Well, there's a person rather pathetically in real life, Amanda, trying to get the ambulance to show up that normally would have gotten there, presumably. And there you have this traffic gridlock. It doesn't get through.
And it was causing problems for the dispatchers, too. Not only were they having to deal with the normal calls coming in, and there were a lot of them, but now there are also all these calls coming in about traffic from angry motorists. And remember, a 91-year-old woman died while she was waiting for first responders. Her family said they don't blame Chris Christie, but this was just causing all sorts of problems. There were accidents, there were people angry, traffic, and certainly closing down these lanes without telling anyone why made it a lot harder.
I wonder if there's other cases. Well, let's take another one we have on the tape here, which was made available today. The traffic jam, it didn't just cause delays, as you suggest, but accidents began to pile up. Fender benders. Here's a 911 call from one of those accidents.
Put on your hazard.
911, where's your emergency?
Yeah, bro, this truck is here. Let me go into 18 from this.
911, where's your emergency?
I'm on the George Washington Bridge. Just in a car accident. We were rear-ended.
Upper level or the lower level?
The upper level.
Upper level. Right, what direction?
We're heading into the city.
Let's go to the politics and the legal concerns. I'm sitting there. I often try to think about what it's like to be somebody in one of these horrible cases. Now, you're Bridget Kelly, right? For all I know, she's a political operative, a regular person of the usual moral bent of any political operative who does what they like to do in the interest of the boss, generally, and their party. She's watching this with us maybe tonight.
Right.
She's watching her as the bad guy. She's the one who wrote the email that said, time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee.
Right.
She's got her fingerprints right on this with that email.
Right.
Is she facing criminal charges here? Is there a body of a crime here? If you say, if it comes down to the evidence that someone purposely screwed on the major artery between New Jersey and New York, a big interstate, and did on purpose for 4 straight days deliberately, is that a crime? Do we know that yet?
Look,
and if so, she's got to blow the whistle the other direction.
Right.
She's got to blame it on somebody above her.
Look, I've talked to a lot of lawyers about this, and the consensus is it's going to be tough to make a federal case about this, obviously.
Case.
But There is a New Jersey state statute.
The
New Jersey, that's an official corruption statute that's been used multiple times against, and it's a broadly worded statute about misusing government power. And that's probably the statute that most directly applies here. The question is, who's going to prosecute the case? If the U.S. Attorney, Paul Fishman, doesn't bring criminal charges because he has a hard time finding a federal statute, what he would likely do is refer it to the New Jersey Attorney General's office. As it happens, the New Jersey
Attorney General... Doesn't the federal government regulate interstate commerce?
Yes, it can. I mean, that's what Patrick Foy originally suggested, the Bridge Act, but, you know, people who have looked at the statute says it talks about extortion and other things that may not apply in this case. Listen, remember, we don't know all the facts. We don't know what was really motivated.
What's going to happen?
So you get to the state law. The Attorney General is in New Jersey is appointed by the governor. He reports directly to the governor. It's not an elected position like it is in most other states. Right now, there isn't even there's only an acting Attorney General. The guy who Christie had nominated to be Attorney General was Kevin O'Dowd, his chief of staff, the very guy who he appointed, who was designated to find out what was going on here and told them there was no issue. They have to pull the Dowd nomination. There isn't even a nominee now to become a New Jersey Attorney General.
But usually the civil servant who's waiting there is
an acting.
They tend to be pretty nonpartisan.
Yeah. No indication yet. We don't know how this is going to play out.
I think the world's watching. They better be careful. Last thought, Amanda. These tapes, it certainly gets out of here, doesn't it?
Yeah, and remember that there's more than just these tapes. People were calling into the Port Authority, too, and complaining. One woman said that her husband was 40 minutes late for his new job after being out of work for a year. And these tapes, if Chris Christie decides to run for higher office, I'm sure you'll hear these tapes played over and over again, and who knows how many angry motorists are going to be lined up ready to talk about what a nightmare it was and why you shouldn't trust Chris Christie in a management job.
I like the way you think. Thank you so much, Amanda Terkel, and thank you, Michael Isikoff, a great reporter. Up next.